And the winner of the performance of the year is Alexander Volkanovski, the featherweight king, in his display against Max Holloway. It was, Mike, truly sensational.
Yeah, listen, unbelievable performance. 50-45 to Max Holloway. This was the third time out. A lot of pressure coming into this one. Remember, of course, Volkanovski won the first two, but a lot of the world kind of said they thought Holloway was robbed of the decision. So to go into that fight the third time, there's a lot of mental pressure. He rose to that perfectly. As I say, 50-45. He was a step ahead the whole time. You know, Max Holloway, only in that fight, mind you, looked like he got old overnight because Volkanovski was so much better. He'd found the piece of the puzzle. He figured him out. He was just one step ahead, as I said. Prior to that, you know, he had two wins against very, very good opposition, Kelvin Cater, and I forget who, Yair Rodriguez. Two amazing fights over two of the best, but against Volkanovski, he just could not get the job done. 50-45. And I got to say, for the other people on there, I remember in Paris, Marvin Vettori versus Robert Whittaker. We were all in absolute awe of that performance, so that deserves a special shout out. Islam Makhachev against Charles Oliveira, the people's champion, taking the belt. So, of course, high stakes indeed. But yeah, I mean, that one there, Alexander Volkanovski, to really put a nail in the coffin of that rivalry that definitely does no longer exist anymore.
And that's the key thing, isn't it, Nick? I know that he was going into that fight 2-0 up in there, but there was people out there that genuinely believed that he didn't win one of those particular fights. So to have that little bit of an interim gap, Max Holloway did sensational to earn his opportunity once again. But the gap between them on the night was something that I don't think anybody would have predicted.
No, and this was the only one of the four on the shortlist as well, which featured two guys ranked very highly on the pound-for-pound list. And when pound-for-pound contender takes on pound-for-pound contender, then you always think it's going to be, one, incredibly close, but also very special if somebody gets their arm raised. And Volkanovski went into it, as you say, a lot of conversations about it being, you know, what you like, what kind of style, but he just proved on the day, you know what, this is over. This rivalry is done. I am a better featherweight than Max Holloway, and I proved it on this day. And you know what? It was kind of similar down the running order as well. Zhang Weili's performance, let's be honest, against Carlos Esparza was nothing short of sensational, because Zhang Weili said to the world, do you want to see what the next generation female strawweight looks like? Well, I'm here now, and I'm ready to take over. And she looks like she's going to have that belt for an awful long time. That was a statement. Robert Whittaker, as Mike says, in Paris, it felt like half of Italy was there supporting Marvin Vettori. It was absolutely fever pitch. And yet Robert Whittaker silenced that crowd in an instant with a performance that proved to the world that, yes, there's Izzy and Pereira at the top of the tree, but Robert Whittaker is absolutely just one ring below them. And I tell you what, could even be technically the best all-round middleweight on the planet still. And then, of course, that brings us to Makhachev versus Oliveira. Oliveira was on the pound-for-pound list. Makhachev wasn't on the pound-for-pound list. But on the night, on Fight Island, there was only one pound-for-pound star in that ring, and his name was Islam Makhachev.
All four of them were brilliant, weren't they? Lucky enough to be octagon side for a couple of those, but all four of them were absolutely sensational. But I just remember in the immediate aftermath of Alexander Volkanovski's performance against Max Holloway just being completely blown away. Well-worthy winner. Congratulations, Alexander. I would normally throw to an acceptance speech. He might be back later on. It was that good of a year for the little fella from Down Under, so make sure you stick around.
The little fella. You're giving him an award, mate, and that is a backhanded the little fella. My God, he's
the only little fella that I can actually refer to as a little fella. I think he's the only fighter that's smaller than me, so I'm allowed to say it. All right,
the little fella. There we go. So respectful.
Anyway, all right then. The featherweight king from Down Under. We'll refer to him as that, and who knows? Maybe next year, the absolute solidified pound-for-pound king, because we know that he's got a hell of a fight on his hands against Islam Makhachev to kick off the new year. Looking forward to it.